Morning, everybody. It's 8:10 a.m. It is September 3rd. Welcome to my channel. Yesterday was a very weird day because it's a huge gap down. And I was saying that yesterday pre-market that these huge gap downs are not the easiest to trade. And this was one of those days. In my channel, in my Discord, I was posting that we reached the expected move in the SPX. We reached a key level, a prior weekly low in the QQQ. We also hit the 50-day moving average in the ES almost to the tick. So I was looking to get long. However, if you know anything about volume profile, we were building volume at the lows. And generally, when you do that, you move lower. So I had conflicting signals. I was looking for a long, but the probabilities were fighting each other for myself, so I really didn't wind up taking it. Thought about a couple ones and I was just like, I saw this before and it usually breaks the lows. I was looking for a break of the low to go long. It did hit the level that I talked about, the 63.70s, not to the tick, but really close. And that really pushed off. That was also 230, almost hitting the Nasdaq. So yeah, those big gap downs are very difficult. Even the price action on the initial sell off as well was not a very easy short. Even though I was looking to short, it just fell apart like very quickly after this consolidation in the early on. And then you had like Trump was supposed to make an announcement at 2, and the market kind of was like dying. And I was also looking for a possible short there, and I was just like, this is just, it was dying before his announcement, and then he took long to get on. So overall, just a little bit of an odd day. And now today, we're gapping up. That's how crazy our markets are, right? We're gapping up. So, into a gap. So, that's because of the Google antitrust lawsuit that was ruled in their favor, and it's helping out Apple as well. That's what's going on this morning. Trump did get on, and now he's still going to battle the courts about tariffs. So, there's uncertainty there. And so we just have to see how that plays out. He does have a conservative Supreme Court majority, so we'll have to see how this plays out. And that's what's going on. Now, today we have Jolts Jobs at 10 a.m. Volume's still pretty good. But what a move from these lows. I mean, what a move. So, I don't think this is much. I don't know how much this will last. But this little rise in Apple and Google, it's kind of like a injection of positivity, and I don't buy it right now. I really don't. But we have to see. I'm not going to sit here and predict the future. I don't do that. Okay? Without further ado, I'll get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. All right. Also use anchored VWAPs and my market internals. That lets me know what's going on under the hoods of the market. Particularly yesterday with market internals, the market never was weak. The market was never weak. That was also a reason I wanted to get long. Okay. So, as I was saying, I also use my trusty expected weekly expected move indicator that I give you for free if you join my Discord. Yesterday, I pointed that out, that we hit the expected move to the downside in the SPX. And as I posted that, I posted it right when we were there. Right when we were there. Okay, and I'll show you that in a sec. I'll show you that in a sec. But that's what I love to use as well. All right, now hopefully you join me every morning and you subscribe as I give you the market story, the news, the economic calendar, leaders and laggards, generally what the market is doing and why it's doing it. Okay, let me be your podcast for the morning, your morning coffee, tea, water, whatever. I give a bunch of technical analysis. Okay, and then I present you with long and short trade scenarios in the ES and the NASDAQ futures, which should help out anybody who trades the highly liquid stocks of the Mag 7. All right. Now, if you want more in-depth commentary, in-depth video, audio messages, you're going to join my Discord. All right. That Discord is Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. I'm going to bring you right now to what I was saying yesterday in my Discord. Okay. So I did a couple videos, audio messages, right? This is what you'll see. And see, I was pointing out QQQ came down to a previously weekly low. See, I was pointing these things out. Double distribution profile. I was talking about right here. So right here, you can see in my indicator that the range for this week is supposed to be 63, 63.94 to 65.56. That right there, folks, is the weekly expected move. Now look, the market didn't even get there yet, and I was already pointing out that that's the weekly expected move to the downside. 70% of the time, my indicator that the market will close inside this range. So whenever you approach one of these levels, there's generally limited downside. Okay? Now again, this is based on probabilities. Okay? And of course, if you go right here to weekly expected move, you can throw that up on your charts. That's why I wasn't really ecstatic about going short. Okay? So that's your edge. I'm giving you an edge. Just sign up to the Discord. Okay? Now, if you want to look at really quickly the chart that I posted, I just showed you, I'll push up here. Here's the SPX. Look what that line was. That's the expected move for this Friday. So notice when I posted it prior, it was like here. Didn't even touch it yet. And then it just battled with it, couldn't go lower. And then that's when we moved higher. Nuts. This is probably the 8th week or so that I've been using this indicator. I run it every weekend, so it's pretty crazy how that works. All right, pretty insane. So do yourself a favor, go to my YouTube homepage, sign up to my Discord, get the free indicator. Okay, put it on your charts. Okay. Now, let's look at futures. Let's see what's moving our markets today. Who's leading? Looks like it's Ethereum. And I just saw something. Speaking of like Bitcoin and stuff, I just saw Coinbase said that they're going to introduce a futures product that combines Bitcoin and the Mag 7. And I don't know if that's official, but I just was looking at that. I was just like, what? So they're going to have a futures product that combines Bitcoin and the Mag 7. Pretty crazy. So let's look at this. So we've got Ethereum. Ethereum is up 2.37%, Bitcoin's up 0.75%, Nasdaq's up 0.73%, gold's up 0.50%, ES up 0.46%, the VIX is up 0.23%. 30-year bonds being bought today. Silver is up 0.06%, the Dow is pretty much flat, Russell's down 0.09%, dollar is down 0.15%, 10-year yield is down a little bit, down 0.1%, and crude's getting slaughtered today. After having a big push up, it's taking all those gains back. So what a reversal there, right? Moving on to the Mag 7 Plus, that's where you have that Google Alphabet, right? Getting that antitrust lawsuit about their Chrome browser. They don't have to get rid of it. Also, it's not. It just was ruled in their favor, right? And that's also helping out Apple. Up 3.74. Tesla's up 1.65. Broadcom reports earnings this week, up 0.79. Only laggards Microsoft. Okay. Moving on. Top sector stocks. Is there anything to note? Only thing is Chevron's down 1.07. All right, we can skip over that. Let's go to sectors. And communications is up 0.94. That's no mystery. That's your Google. Okay. That's your Google. All right. Technology up 0.60. That's your Apple. Okay. Laggard today is energy. Okay. Chevron's down 1.07 and crude is down. Okay. All right. Let's move on to economic calendar today. Let's look at this together here. Now today we have 30-year mortgage rate already came out. Let's see, actual 6.64, previous 6.69, went down a little bit. Fed Musalem is speaking at 9 a.m. Jolts Jobs at 10 a.m. Factory orders at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. This really hasn't moved markets lately, but still it's a news release. If I'm in a trade at like 9:45 or so, I'll hold it, but I'll keep a tight look on this once it approaches 10 a.m. Fed Kashgari speaks at 1:30. You have API crude at 4:30. All right. So that's what's coming up in economic calendar. And as far as the juice, let's see what the juice says on top. Let's see here. Okay. So we have 11 a.m. Trump greets Polish president. That's what we have this morning. Now there's a bunch of stuff going on with Japanese bonds, the JGBs. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't fully dive in deep to it, but I know that the yen has pushed um, the dollar. Let's see where the dollar is. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into all that, but there's just stuff going on with the yen. All right. So, and nothing really more than that I wanted to talk about here. Okay, let's look at more news. So, here's your Alphabet shares jump as U.S. court ruling eases antitrust concerns. Google parent Alphabet surged in pre-market trading after a U.S. federal judge spared the company from a forced breakup in an antitrust case, marking a pivotal moment for the tech giant whose dominance in search and mobile ecosystems has long drawn scrutiny. Then it says Google's AI rivals get a boost from data sharing order, but tech giant far from routed. A rising group of artificial intelligence companies stand to gain from antitrust ruling on Tuesday that ordered Alphabet's Google to share its invaluable search data with competitors. Trump to ask Supreme Court to save tariffs but faces tough legal questions. Let's see here. U.S. holiday spending set for deepest drop since pandemic. All right. Now oil. Oil prices edged lower ahead of Sunday's OPEC Plus meeting. The dollar edged lower against a basket of major currencies. What else here? The company will pay 10 million to Walt Disney. The company will pay 10 million to settle U.S. Federal Trade Commission allegations the company unlawfully allowed personal data to be collected from children who viewed kid-directed videos on YouTube without notifying parents. Interesting. So look at Alphabet. Citizen raised its target to 250 from 225 after a federal court ruling allowed Google to retain its control of its Chrome browser and Android mobile operating system. Constellation Brands. Jeffries cuts target price to 179 from 205, citing greater than expected consumer headwinds and a deteriorating beer outlook. Alrighty. Looks like Salesforce had some earnings. I think that's after the close, I'm pretty sure. Alrighty. Let's see if there's any stock news this morning. Any further news here? Let's see here. Here we go. Already talked about Alphabet. Now, Apple and other companies from preloading Google products, shares in the iPhone maker also advanced. Macy's shares surged after the department store chain reported better than expected second quarter results. Dollar Tree has lifted its annual financial targets thanks in part to solid demand for its bargain price items from value seeking middle and upper income customers. All right, that's what's going on there. Let's look at some upgrades. Let's see if there's anything here. Upgrades, nothing really there. TransUnion got an upgrade. Let's see here. This downgrades list has been very poor lately. All right, I'm not going to go into any more of that. Let's look at real quick some breadth charts. You might trust the breadth definitely got weaker. So just percentage of stocks in the S&P 500 that are over their 20-day simple moving average, we're at 53%. That's right in the middle, folks. Our markets are right in the middle. Now that might increase maybe a little, maybe because it's more or less the Mag 7. Well, not Mag 7, like Apple and Google getting some love this morning. This is the overall market indicator. This is out of 500 stocks. So that's where I would, this represents the 500 stocks in the S&P. It doesn't have any market cap weighting or anything like that. So just I like to look at that. All right. I think we can move on. I think we go right into the market internals recap. I'll just quickly go over that. Just give me one sec. Here's our market internals. And real quickly, so here's when we opened. We were pretty strong, right? Pretty strong. And we only got down to like a negative 57, which is not weak at all. Not weak at all. And that was the turn. We got positive around here. All right, so the key about this and what I love this is because this market internals marks from the open. Doesn't matter Friday's close. So I'm seeing off the open, we were strong. This is what was telling me there's not a lot moved to the downside. We also hit the expected move in the SPX. Okay, and then we lifted and just got stronger into the close. All right. So let's move on here. Let's move on here. We're going to get into some daily charts here. Let's get into daily charts. So let's look at some key levels here. All right, so here's your SPY. So let's see what we did yesterday. Look at that. We closed right at the 20-day simple moving average. Okay. Here's last week's lows. We were still below last week's range. Okay. There's the expected move to the downside for my indicators, 632.33. We didn't hit that. Okay. We didn't even hit this trend line. Okay. But what a day, because we opened up down here, put that wick in. Just a crazy market. Just a crazy, crazy market. Okay. Where are we now? 643. We are, this is crazy, all the way up here. We're by Friday's lows right now. Almost by the 9 EMA daily. That is just crazy. Now, look at this 9 EMA daily. It's kind of flat, right? And in the 20 is kind of flat. And we're in the right here. That could cause us to just kind of range here. So I have another chart I like to call the mouth. And this is kind of like by the mouth. Anytime you're in the mouth, you generally, the market, like inside here, generally you range a little bit. But we'll have to see. Okay, let's look at futures. So futures, look at that wick, boy. Wow. Look at that wick. Remember, it came down almost to a previous weekly low. It came down. In another chart I have, it hit the 50-day, but close to the 50-day moving average. All right. You can see right now we're in that mouth. futures, the 20-day simple moving average and the 90 MA daily. Okay, right here, inside, almost in the middle of yesterday's range. Not the best trade location. Okay, so we just have to see what transpires there. Now, moving on to Qs. All right, here's Qs. All right, now if we back up a little bit, this is a previous weekly low where we came down to, pretty much, right? Got saved. We crossed the 50-day moving average, but then we closed above it. And you can see we hit the back side of this trend line here. Okay, so still underneath last week's lows. That's where we were left off. But then with Google, 569.30 makes it all the way back inside last week's range. It's kind of crazy. Right here, 569.30. That is pretty nuts now that we're back here. That's pretty nuts. The close of Friday was 570.40. So it's like this whole move is almost eliminated with the help of Apple and Google. Okay? So just have to see. And if we're in here, we're in the middle of all this crap. Okay? Let's look at NASDAQ futures. Okay? Now, NASDAQ futures cleared that 50-day moving average. No problem. But then look. This is very important, right? There is a previous weekly low. You see this? Right there. People took profits there. Ooh, big wick, right? Inside last week's range. And look at all this trading, this congestion here. That is ugly. Okay, so if we want to put a little range on this here, let's just start. We could even start like right here. Look at all this trading. Right? And we're right almost back in here. That's ugly. Okay? So we're gonna slow down in this area. There's a lot of trading that transpired here, or transacted here, I should say. Okay? So that's what we're looking at as far as the futures here. All right? And we're gonna move on. Let's just real quick look at the dollar, because the dollar, let's see, the dollar, it's still in that range. Had a nice push up yesterday. I believe that was weakness in the yen helping that. But we're still in a stupid range. It's just, and the 10-year yields had a bump. See, right here. It's just, this is nothing to talk about. The VIX is the only thing that, okay, we got a bump up there. Right? We got our volatility. We got our volatility here. Big wick up to the 200-day moving average up here. Let's just look at zoom in this closer. Went right up to the 100-day, 200-day. Now we have this little doji today. We'll just have to see. Still an elevated VIX from where we were down here at like 14. Okay. Now, if we're going to look at more charts, let's look at the hourly chart here. Let's get some levels here. You can see what we did with Jackson Hole. Okay. And let's look at that together. So here's a 1 hour chart here. Let's look at some levels together. Okay, so yesterday, okay, here's your ES. This right here was when Jackson Hole happened. Boom, right? Well, we took it back, but then if you look to the left, right, that was where the support happened. And I said that 63.70 would be a destination that I would like to look the long at. I just didn't like intraday how the market looked there. It looked like it wanted to break it. And then if a broker reclaimed it, that's where I was going to plan to get long based on all of the expectations. Good luck. Do you have lipstick on? My daughter's first day of school today. All right, so let's let me. I got distracted here. So yeah, so we came into the 6370s. Then I knew this area was going to cause some traffic. It did. It kind of like initially was hanging out here, broke that. I was looking to go short here, and there was no setup for that, right? So then we pushed down to this level, into this big demand zone. Like I said, it was like a daily demand zone, all right? And then the market lifted all the way up here to this anchored VWAP, right? Then pulled back and ripped back up again, and now we're pulling back a little bit. Okay, so key levels to look at today, I would definitely say this ultimate balance of 64.70. 64.70 is your ultimate balance now. That is your bull bear line today. 64.70. And I would also say a decent level to look at is this most traded price of yesterday. What's that price? 64.26.27. That could be our range today, folks. This could be our range. 64.70 to 64.25, let's just call it. That could be it today. Pretty nuts, okay? Pretty crazy. Market does, it just never ceases to amaze me. All right. Well, actually, the anchored VWAP for this week and this month, buyers are in control of it already. Look at that. That's the anchored VWAP for this week and this month, obviously because that started, and it's already green. Now it's September. Like I said, I don't buy this little surge from this antitrust thing. I don't really buy. I'm not really getting sold on it that it's going to make us just all out go back to all-time highs. Nope. So let's look at our Nasdaq. Let's look at our beautiful Nasdaq here. All right. So let me just make this a little smaller here. Okay. So what did the Nasdaq do? All right. Remember, I pointed it out. This was a previous weekly low that held the market. This demand zone right here held the market. 230 I talked about in the pre-market never got breached, right? And I said it was going to be a battle between 232 and 230. It was. Okay, because once we opened, we battled here, and then I said there was no setup really. Came down in here and tried to go lower. We have basically a double bottom here in an hourly candle, and then we just ripped up. And we came all the way back to last week's lows. That is insane. Okay? Now for today, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros is your most traded price of the week. Noticed where the resistance was in the overnights, right there. That does not surprise me. Okay? That does not surprise me. So that's your level to look at today. 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. That's your most traded price of the rolling week. Okay, you can just see all the consolidation here, all the trading, right? Most traded price of the month is 236s, and I consider this a big wall. Okay, choppy in here. If we get rejected in here, yeah, you can and take out that swing low. You can go back and test these 232s. Okay, so this could be the range today, in between 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros and 232s. Okay, so write those down. That is your hourly chart analysis. Okay. Now let's move on to market profile, buying profile. Okay. This will be your market profile and buying profile analysis. So, do we have some profile to look at? Yeah, we do. So we have like excess at the top here. This is where we know ultimate balance 6470s is, right? That's our bull bear line. Then we have pretty much yesterday's trading all down here. Trying to build that volume down here. That's what I was talking about. Look at the volume that was being built down there. And you really didn't get a tail. That's not a tail. That orange is from, remember, this is a 30-day. The blue is from yesterday. Look at that. Look at that volume that was building out. That's why I thought we were going to get one little push lower. It didn't happen. Okay. Remember, all those are all probabilities. So I had the probability that we wouldn't go lower, but I didn't get the probability on my end that I wanted to put a tail in, some excess to get me confident to really go long. But that's trading. Okay. So I have my probabilities fighting each other a little bit. Okay, and you have kind of a poorish, weakish low here. You don't, like you can see the two TPOs. That's not a tail, really. Okay. All right. So now we're gapping up into a gap. Okay. So gap fill is 6443 right there. And I would probably say, this is a pretty big box, this is the level that the bulls need to defend. Now remember what I said. The 6425s is yesterday's most traded price. You have a nice demand zone in here. Okay. And this is that big drop down in the overnight yesterday. Right? And you're trying to build out volume up here in the overnights. Okay. So that is a level to defend, right? Where would my target be? 6470s. 6470s. Okay. We also have this 6405s to 15s. These are high volume nodes from the past. Okay. I would say that would be, if we went down there, the bears would probably regain control because we took this out. Okay. And then we got to mark off this supply zone with that ultimate balance level of 6470. Okay. So this becomes our confluence low, overnight lows, most traded price of yesterday. Okay. Demand zone. Right. You also have last week's lows right in here as well. That's a very key. I mean, I can't even stress that enough. That confluence. Okay. So 6425, you do not want the ES underneath it. You do not want it to accept the value or price below that level. That's going to put bulls on their heels. All right. Write that down. Write that down. I know I keep telling you to write that down. 6470 is your macro bull bear line. Market goes above that and it finds acceptance, we're probably going to hit all-time highs. I don't think that's likely, but anything can happen. All right, now let me break this session out. So there's the price action from the overnights. And let's get some scenarios going here. All right. And we're going to start off, let me see here. I'm going to start off with a bull case. Okay. So you see the overnight session. Most traded price suited overnight is right here, about 64.43. That happens to be also close to the gap fill. All right. So, like I said, if I'm a bull, say the market internals are at parity or they're strong, right? I would welcome a pullback into this range. Even if we just, now you couldn't get a gap fill and just go up, right? That's perfect. We'll see about that. Okay. I would welcome any kind of pullback into this demand zone. Remember, that's last week's lows. That's the overnight lows. That's the most share price yesterday. If you defend that level and you start to get some higher lows, yeah, I would target probably these overnight highs and then 64.70. That is a beautiful trade. Okay. And there could be a little bear trap in here where you could just dip, but you need to recover quick, and that also could be a beautiful trade. It's probably all I'm interested in. Because if we work ourselves up, okay, into just here, like let's say we just didn't do any pullbacks and you just rip into 64.70. I don't think that 64.70 ultimate balance, the most traded price of the week and the month, does not get ripped through. I would be shocked. Okay, I would not want to long anywhere in there. A lot of overhead supply. Okay, so that's not something that I want to deal with for a long. So we're gonna go over to shorts now. Let's go over to shorts. Now, remember what I said. Anything below here is weak, right? But in the macro picture, the bull bear line is 64.70. So I have a lot of opportunities on the short side. Okay, so number one, okay, let's just say we rip up into the 64.70 level. There's supply there, it's ultimate balance. Okay, if the market cannot find acceptance over this level, that is bearish. So if we did something like this, pushed up, reject it, retest, yeah, I'm going to go for those 64.25s here. You break that, whew, you go down to here. Okay, that would be nice. Now, if we make that move up nice and quick and the market's not very strong, that's a nice short. That's a nice short, and it's also like a big bull trap from all these longs and the overnights. Okay, now, what if we just come down here and rip, right? And say do this, hit that anchor VWAP from the month to date, the week to date, come back, retest this. Maybe you get this move down to here. Then if you break that, that puts all these bulls in questions. And wow, imagine we went all the way down to 63.70. I'm not saying that's in the cards. Okay, that's just what it could do, right? What it could do. That's all I'm interested in. Okay, that is your ES scenarios. Moving on. 2R NASDAQ. 2R NASDAQ. All right. So let's look at this together. Let's look at some volume profiles here. All right. So we have like excess up here. We know we have our most traded price, that 2, 3, 4, 50s of the week, right? Then we got another little distribution here. That's another high volume node, 232s, which is around the most traded price of yesterday. And then we have that. See that volume? That is not a tail, folks. See how this says weak low? Just not a tail. That's not a proper tail. Hence why it was uncomfortable going long yesterday. Auctions don't end without a tail. Generally, they just don't end that way. Okay. Now, your NASDAQ is relatively stronger right now in structure compared to the ES. ES is very close to the gap fill. The NASDAQ is not, right? So here's gap fill, 23374s. It also has a nice big demand zone that lines up with the overnight lows. Okay. Now, look where NASDAQ had trouble, the 23450s. Okay. That's the most traded price of the rolling week. Inside here could get a little choppy. Most traded price of the month, 236s. Most traded price of the week, 23450s. Inside here could get a little choppy. Okay. So, what else do we have here? Let's look at the levels. All right. Now, the midpoint of yesterday lines up with the 232 in this demand zone. That's a 50% retracement of yesterday. All right. Now you got your Porsche low down here with demand and a prior weekly low and your 230s. Okay. And this profile here in the overnight has like a lot of distributions. So you got a nice distribution lower here, and the most traded price is actually down at 23328, but the price is all the way up here. Now you can see we're building out volume here, but we ran into the most traded price of the week. Okay, there's a lot of overhead supply here. This is why I think that Google in the Apple move powering the Qs is in question for me. Right? I don't really trust it. It's like a sugar rush for the markets. Okay? Man, and it does a great job, right? Because if you're down here and you're going, wow, this is September, how September's starting, and then boom, hits a big long, now you're into this area, right? And just how these longs or the bears got all greedy, these longs could get greedy in here, and then they could get their positions liquidated. Okay, so let's get into the scenarios here. Okay, let's go into it. Not sure who's with me today. Haven't seen documents in a while. I'm not sure if Amayo's here or Rosita, and I could be alone. Maybe I'm alone. I don't even know. If you want to say hi, say hi. Again, I do this every day. This is my process. I would do it by myself without any stream. But if you are here, thank you for being here. All right. And we're going to get right into the scenarios. I don't even know if I just put that up. I'm going to put it up. Oh, I'm going to put it up again. Oh, Chief's here. I'm assuming she basically, on the podcast, I don't even think she's seen my stream in 2 years. I know she listens. She's a very busy woman. She's very humble. So let's see here. All right. Let's check this out. All right. We're going to get into. You know what? I'm going to actually do a bearish case first. I really have to do that. Okay. So remember the 23450 most traded price of the week. Price is right here. So what I could see, we're building out volume here at a key level. Okay. Gapping up into a gap. All right. So what I would see if I'm a bear is I would like to see some manipulation here and put a nice little excess in. And I would love to see a rejection here and retest the 23450s. And I would go straight for the overnight lows, 233s. If you lose those 233s, you're going to revisit the 232s right here. All right. That would be a beautiful, beautiful trade. Okay. If you lose the 232s in the most traded price of yesterday and the midpoint of yesterday, 50% retracement, take out that demand. Woo! Do you go to the 230s? Do you break that poor low from yesterday? I don't know. That's all gravy. Now, I'm a day trader, so I probably wouldn't be in that big move because my risk is small. My reward is not too far away. But if I'm in options or something, I might look to swing that play. But I am scared of swinging right now. Swing trades, whew, just the way this market moves. I mean, if we opened yesterday and you were like, oh my God, September is here, and you short, you're not happy today. Like if you shorted yesterday for future, well maybe if I like me, I don't trust this move, but I'd rather not trust it in the day trade than not trust it in a swing trade, right? Because anything can happen. Trump, whatever. All right. So that is a beautiful setup. That is a beautiful setup. Okay. Anything in here, I'm gonna be honest. If the market moves up in here, it could get choppy inside ultimate balance. Okay. You do have another shot, but I'm not going to like it because if we're up here, if we make it up here, the market's not going to be weak. All right. Now you might run into the 236s. That's the most traded price of the month. You might get some resistance here, but if we're up here, the market's not going to be very weak. You could get a short, but I'm not. It's not really what I'm looking for. Okay. That's the less probable move. Okay. And you have a lot of supply in here. That's why I'm like, even longs in here, Not really liking it. All right, so that's the shorts. All right. Now let's look at the longs here. Okay. Now I'm telling you right now, I'm not gonna love longs in here. I would need to see a lot happen. Okay. So what would I like? Well, let's inverse it. Let's say we do this and we fail, and you find yourself back, pulling back into this demand zone. This is last week's lows, right? There's the close from yesterday. You got a lot of confluence in here, all right? Even if you all the way down and touch that overnight lows, get a higher low, you can make it back up here. That would be a nice trade. Okay, that would be nice. Your last attempt, okay? And I don't know how much I would like this, but if we started to rip down and take out the overnight lows, right? You got your month to date anchor view up and week to date together right here. But if we made it down to this demand in 232s, I think that's your last line of defense for the Nasdaq. You'd have to like really hold this and maybe come. I don't think you make it that much. You might make it just somewhere in here. That is not a favorite, but it's viable if the market is not that weak. If the market is weak, yeah, I'm probably not going to love that. And again, I'm talking about what I see now. I know I definitely have different game plans when the market opens because we don't have the data right now. The data's not there yet. Okay, that's it, folks. That's it. Now let me show you real quick daily chart of the ES here in futures on my screen. Okay. Notice I talked about this daily demand zone yesterday. I went like this. I made a box. You notice where we just came? We came right down to here. The 50-day moving average. See that? You have an anchored view up here. You held the market. Okay? So then you got the Nasdaq. And the Nasdaq actually took out this daily demand, but held a prior weekly low. So that's what you did there. Okay? And then, and that's about it. All right? So that's it for today, folks. All right? Hopefully you liked my analysis. Smash the like button if you did. That would be much appreciated. All right? And as always, you can join me every morning, give you the market story, give you the market news, economic calendar, leaders and laggards, just what the market's doing, what it's doing, followed by technical analysis. And of course, I just gave my long and short trade scenarios. Okay, so hopefully you sign up, join up, right? And if you want more in-depth commentary, join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Okay, join my Confluence Trading, my Discord. Let me be your indicator. Okay, let me be your indicator. Sign up, get the free indicator, and also get the free indicator, the weekly expected move. Okay, so you get that free, put on your charts, put on your mobile. Do it. All right. That's my Confluence Trading. Go to YouTube homepage, click on the link. All right. So everybody have a great day. Remember, stay green. No trade's a trade. And if you don't see me in my Discord, I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Later.